Hello my friends, Namaste. Today we are going to learn about astronomy. This is called Astronomy for Astrologers, but you don't have to be an astrologer to watch this video. You might just want to learn the basics of what we call positional astronomy, which means how astronomers describe where things are in the sky. You might be an astronomer who wants to know what astrologers do. So basically, we're going to learn how we talk about where planets are in the sky, and we will make reference to the astrology chart wheels, with speaking to astrologers so that they understand what it is that they are looking at, or I should say we are looking at, because I am also an astrologer. Okay, so we're going to talk about what the astrology chart really shows us. And we've got a whole bunch of things. You know what? This is not going to all get covered in one video. So I'm going to have a part 2, maybe a part 3. We'll see how long this takes. But here's what we're going to learn in all these videos. We'll cover at least the first few in this video. We'll learn what diurnal motion and proper motion are. You're hearing these terms, so they don't scare you when I bring them up later. Maybe they will scare you. They may sound strange. We'll find out what the zenith and the nadir are. We'll hear some scary sounding things, the azimuth and the altitude. We'll learn what zodiac signs really are, as opposed to constellations, what the vernal equinox is, about the astronomical similarity of the ascendant and zero Aries. We'll learn about precession of the equinoxes, celestial longitude and latitude, the horizon plane, the ecliptic, the celestial equator, what a great circle is, right ascension, sometimes abbreviated RA, declination and declination arcs, the meridian plane and the MC, and the prime vertical. So these are all fundamental to positional astronomy. They're fundamental to astrology. Every time an astrologer interprets a chart, that interpretation is based on all these details, whether the astrologer knows it or not. And so it's nice to find out a little bit about what it is we're doing, or what astrologers are doing when they look at the chart wheel, and how they convert or translate, you might say, that information in the sky into the chart wheel and how it gets interpreted. Okay, so I have another video called Astrocartography and In-Mundo Positions that also talks about what's really positional astronomy. But in this video I'm going to go into much more detail than I do in that one. But after watching these videos, you may also want to watch that one, especially if you have an interest in astrocartography. Okay, now the chart wheel. Okay, so here's a chart wheel. I'm in the Sirius 1.3 software, and this is a typical chart wheel that astrologers know and love. Okay, and it has the 12 houses, which go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc. And then there are the zodiac signs: Aries, Taurus, Gemini. The zodiac signs are all 30 degrees each exactly, and the houses actually vary in size. And if I right-click, I could pick different wheel styles. If I don't really need these zodiac signs out there, I can just remove them, and that's a simpler and also very common wheel style used by astrologers. And some astrologers prefer that the houses all appear to be the same size, even though they're not the same size, and that would be the equally spaced. So now we've divided the circle into 12 equal pieces, and the houses appear to be the same size, even though they're actually not. And then also, interestingly, not all astrologers use a round wheel like this. Here's a wheel style that was used in the Middle Ages, similar to one that's used in India still today, and some astrologers using ancient methods do use wheel styles like this. So the astrologer does not have to use a diagram that represents what's in the sky. That's not required, and some astrologers don't. But for teaching purposes, I'm going to select this wheel style because it has the zodiac signs and the houses there. Some wheel styles number the houses for you, but we'll just use this wheel style, which we know this is the first, second, third. Saturn, this is a symbol for Saturn, is in the 4th house, and so on. Okay, so that wheel style is fine. Click OK. Well, I didn't have to click OK. I didn't change anything. But anyway, there's that wheel. Okay. Okay, covered that information. Now, what is in this chart wheel? Well, it's an approximation of what's in the sky. It has to be an approximation because the sky, astronomers refer to looking at the sky as a celestial sphere. So even though the objects in the sky vary in their distance from us, the fixed stars are hugely further away than the planets, and of course the moon is much closer. We really can't tell very well. You could tell with the moon, but not so much with the planets and stars, how far away they are. And you can imagine all the stars out there to be on the surface of a ball, and you're inside the ball. And that's why in astronomy and all the way back into ancient times, astronomers referred to the celestial sphere. So the planets, the stars, everything out there, you can imagine them to be equally spaced on a ball around you, even though they're not literally equally spaced. From the visual perspective, that doesn't really matter that much. So we're taking that sphere where, for example, the sun rises in the morning. It may not be exactly east, it may be a little bit north of east or south of east when it rises. And then it comes up and it gets to some height in the sky. It doesn't usually come directly over your head. In a lot of places in the world, it cannot come directly over your head. But anyway, it rises somewhere roughly in the east, reaches however high it's going to be, and then it sets. And so it takes about half a day to rise and then come down and set, and then another half a day to come back around. Of course, that varies depending on the season. But basically, the sun is going to rise here in the morning. This is the horizon, and this is going to go around this way, clockwise. This chart wheel what the chart wheel shows, this is above you. This is called the 10th house cusp, also known as the MC, which is the point above you. And this is east. If you face south, here's the trick, face south. So if you're sitting down or standing and you can find out which direction is south, if you face south, what direction is to your left? Right, east. So if you're facing south, the sun and all the planets actually, rise to your left in the east, get to their highest point here, set here, and then come below you at midnight. Well, the sun would be at midnight. The other planets, whatever time of the day it happens to be. In this culmination point, the midheaven or 10th house cusp, is actually halfway between the east and the west, but because we are putting the whole sphere on a piece of paper, there's some distortion, and I'm going to explain how that distortion happens and what we see and don't see in the astrology chart wheel. But you just can't take an entire sphere and put it on a piece of paper and see everything. So the ascendant, or first house cusp, is approximately the horizon, and this is Madonna, the singer and actress. This is where the planets are, her birth chart, where everything was when she was born. And it looks like Mercury's about 3 degrees above the ascendant, which you could think of as the horizon, and the moon is 3 degrees below it. But it's only approximately true. And what I'm going to show you in these videos is how to know how far it is from each one and why it's only approximate. But remember, all the planets are rising, we call culminating, setting, coming beneath you, and so on. And I can use this interactive chart adjust to show you that. I'll click on this. I'll select 1 hour, and then I'll go later in time, and you'll see everything spins around. So the sun is here in the 12th house, moon just below the ascendant. I go 1 hour later, and moon is up here. I go another hour later, and you can see they're spinning around to the right. Another hour, another hour, another hour, and now we've reached almost the middle of the day where the sun, it's almost noon, and the sun is coming up to this highest point. It wouldn't happen exactly at noon on the clock because of time zones and so on, but roughly in the middle of the day the sun will come to its highest point and then come down. So to the left is east. What's this? What direction is this? Some astrologers say it's south. That's wrong. It's not necessarily south. I mean, it might be south. It may not be. So if you learned that, unlearn it. Sorry. This is above you. So this is east. This is above you. This is west. This is below you. So you may say, well, what is north and south? Well, you're compressing the sky onto a piece of paper. So where north and south is depends on where you are in the world. So it's best to think of this as east, above you, west, below you. Okay? Now, while the planets are spinning around once a day, they're all spinning around. It's an optical illusion caused by the Earth spinning. They also have their own motion going the other way. So the spinning around is called diurnal motion. Diurnal meaning daily, how they move through the day. And then they have their own actual motion, sometimes called proper motion, in the other direction. So Moon is at 14 Virgo 36. If I go an hour later, let me go 2 hours later, the Moon has moved up to the top of the chart. It's the top of the chart. You may say, well, that's not the top. The top would be over here. Well, that's the distortion, which we'll learn more about. There's no way to present this, the sky, there's no way to present the sky on a piece of paper without having to make some compromises. So the Moon has now reached the top of the chart, which is the 10th house cusp, but it's moved to 15 Virgo 49. So it's going forward. I'll go another 2 hours. Remember, 15 Virgo 49, 1 hour, 2 hours, and now it's 17 Virgo 03, a little more than a degree. So the Moon is moving this way. All the planets have their own speed moving this way. Sometimes some of them appear to go backwards. We call retrograde motion, but on the whole they're moving forwards. Everything but the Sun and Moon can appear to go retrograde. So they have their proper motion moving slowly this way through the zodiac signs, and then they have their diurnal motion moving through the houses. Now, notice something about the houses. How are the houses numbered? What house is this? 12, 11, 10. They move backwards through the houses, right? So if you didn't know that, might come as rather shocking, but in the diurnal motion, the planets are moving backwards through the houses. The Moon here is at the end of the 9th house. This is 9. It'll go backwards through the 8th, and similarly, Venus is at the end of the 7th. It's going from the end of the 7th, and then eventually it'll go into the 6th. Let's watch that. I'll change this to 2 hours, and let's watch Venus. 2 hours later, Venus is getting close to setting. Another 2 hours later, Venus is way down here. So it has set, gone from the 7th house to the 6th house, and now entering into the end of the 5th house. So they go in the diurnal motion backwards through the houses. Why are the houses numbered backwards relative to diurnal motion? I don't know. It's just the way the history worked out. A historian, somebody who specializes in the history of astrology might happen to know that. Actually, I know a little bit about it, but I don't want to get distracted, but they're numbered backwards. Our subject is not history, it's astronomy. Okay, so this is a summary of the things I said. If you face south, the chart wheel is an approximate placement of where the planets are. But remember, we've reduced the celestial sphere to a plane, to a two-dimensional computer screen or piece of paper. Planets move backwards through the houses, that's called diurnal motion. Planets move more slowly in the opposite direction, that's called proper motion. So the chart wheel shows the relationship of planets in the sky Uh, but in terms of the zodiac signs, and these are called tropical zodiac signs, are not the same as the constellations. We'll learn more about that shortly. Okay, so covering a lot of material here. Now, let's look at Moon and Mercury in Madonna's chart, because there's something interesting. Her Mercury is about 3 degrees above the ascendant, and Moon is about 3 degrees below the ascendant. And in astrology, we think of the ascendant as being the horizon, so Mercury and Moon are about the same distance from the horizon. Mercury is above the horizon and Moon is below the horizon or ascendant, except it's not really exactly the horizon. And we'll find out that Mercury is much less than 3 degrees from the horizon. And again, this has to do with the fact that we're presenting the whole celestial sphere on a piece of paper. So how can we see where the planets are in the actual sky? Well, you can use a planetarium program. And there's several free ones. There's one called Stellarium, another called Celestia. There are planetarium programs that you can purchase. These are astronomy programs for looking at the sky. We have a nice, simple planetarium feature in Sirius, and I'll just use it for demonstrating. And so we can go to Maps and then to Sky Map. So it's usually called something like Sky Map or Planetarium, and here we call it Sky Map. It's in another module we call Kepler Workshop, which is handy because it opens up in a separate window. Down here, I'm not capturing it in this video, but in the the bottom of your windows, they call the taskbar, I can go back to Sirius and go back to Kepler Workshop. They're both open simultaneously. Now, what are we looking at? Looks crazy. Jambalaya, what is all this stuff? All these squiggles. This is the actual sky when Madonna was born. The left, it says Northern Hemisphere. The right is Southern Hemisphere. Now, what I have selected here is circular. You can do a rectangular or circular representation of the sky. And I have horizon selected. So we're seeing it from the point of view of the horizon, because that's what we want to look at right now. And here it tells me the colors. Red is horizon, green is ecliptic, and yellow is the celestial equator. We'll learn about all these things in a moment. This Northern Hemisphere image shows the red horizon around the outside. Okay, so what this is, northern in reference to horizon means above the horizon. This is a perfect horizon, not like your horizon with trees and mountains and valleys and whatever. This would be like a horizon similar to what you would see out in the middle of the ocean, the astronomical horizon, perfectly level, and this is the point over your head. So imagine you're standing underneath this. This is above you. You're facing south. So one of the nice things about this sky map is if you're an astrologer, is it's laid out in the same relationship as the astrology chart wheel, where you're facing south. So this becomes east, and this is south. This is south, even though in the astrology chart wheel, the top of the chart is really above you. This is south in the planetarium or sky map. This is west, and this is north. So what is this in the middle? That's the point above you. You're standing underneath this sky. Imagine this is a half of a bowl with this middle part protruding up. Can you imagine that? This is up over your head, and this is the horizon. So here's the sun. This yellow thing says sun. It's right on this green line, which I'll talk about in a minute. And it's here on this part. This is the part of the sky below you. This is directly below your feet. So you can imagine this to be a bowl which is indented down. And this is the bowl above you. If you imagine the sky to be like a big sphere, big ball with you in the middle. So this is everything above the sky. This is the horizon. This is the actual real horizon, the red. So if the sun was here, what would it be doing? If it was right on this red part. This is the path of the sun, this green thing. That's called the ecliptic plane. That's the path that the sun travels. So if the sun was here, what would it be doing? Yes, it's rising. It's on the horizon. So this means rising, and at about 12 noon, give or take several hours, the sun will be over here somewhere. This is called the meridian plane, going north-south. So the sun is going to come up from the horizon. This is the halfway point, and then it'll come back down. But this ecliptic plane is going to move during the day. It doesn't stay like this. It like snakes around all over the place. But the sun will always be on it. It'll come up. This would be like, we'll call it 6 a.m. Rising at 6 a.m., 1/3 of the way, 8 a.m. What am I thinking? Yes. Rising at 6, this will be 7 a.m. I'm going nuts. Sorry. I thought it would be 2 hours. 6 a.m., 8 a.m., hallelujah, 10 a.m., noon. And then 2 p.m., 4 p.m., 6 p.m. it would hit the setting point. And so on. Then it would be below. At night it would be down here and come back around. So it's an image of the sky. And we can also watch this hour by hour and see the planets move in the actual sky. But before I do that, let's look at this. Here's Mercury. It might be hard to read because it says Mercury. Here's the star Regulus, and here's the sun. Mercury it shows as being almost right on the horizon, slightly above the horizon. Here's the moon. Now remember, what is this? This is below the horizon. This is the invisible sky that you can't see because it's below the horizon. And here's the moon below the horizon by a bigger distance. So that's what I wanted to show you, is that the astrology chart shows Mercury and moon equally distant from the ascendant, but they're not equally distant from the horizon. Mercury is actually much closer to the horizon than the moon is. The moon is below the horizon. Well, now let me use this time adjust. I'm going to go 1 hour, time increment 1 hour. Well, 1 hour is a lot. Let me change this to, a lot from what I want to show you. Let me change it to 10 minutes. This is the actual sky. What's going to happen 10 minutes after Madonna was born? I go forward 10 minutes. Here's the moon moving, everything's spinning around, getting closer to the horizon. Mercury further. Let me go another 10 minutes. What am I doing? I want to change it. I want to click here. So now I'm 20 minutes after, and now the moon is almost reaching the horizon. I'll go 10 more minutes. So after a half hour, the moon finally crosses the horizon to rise. So I'll go back 10, 20, 30, and I'm back to when she was born. So even though the astrology chart wheel shows Mercury and moon same distance from the ascendant, they're not the same distance from rising. In fact, if I go back 10 minutes, Mercury, I just clicked backwards, Mercury has already set. So I went back, let's change this to 1 minute and see when Mercury rises. If I go backwards 1 minute, 2 minutes, 3, 4 minutes earlier, Mercury is below the horizon. And then going forward, 3, now it just rose, 2, 1, 0, and I'm back to her birth time. So Mercury rose about 4 minutes before she was born. The moon doesn't rise for another half hour, roughly, about 30 minutes, right? Because we did that clicking forward. But when you look at the astrology chart wheel, it looks like, if you're thinking of the ascendant, you might think that it would be the same amount of time, because they're both about 3 degrees. We're told that it moves about 1 degree every 4 minutes. You would think it would be about a little less than 12 minutes, maybe 10 minutes ago, Mercury rose. It was actually only 4, and you would think that the moon, slightly over 3 degrees, would have been a little more than 12, maybe 14 minutes was actually 30 minutes. That's because the ascendant is not identical to the horizon. It's a little different. And in a minute we're going to learn what that difference is. Okay, so I know there's a lot of material. Maybe your head is spinning if you're not familiar with this stuff. But what I've shown you, let me look at my notes here. So this is how to select it. The sky map is a 3D. Mercury appears to be closer to the horizon than the moon. It is closer to the horizon. I just showed you that with the time adjust, and you can visually see it. We're going to eventually answer this question, and it's going to be in the next video, of why Mercury and Moon are about the same distance from the ascendant, but they're not the same distance from the horizon. Got it? They're about the same distance from the ascendant. They're not the same distance from the horizon. And we're going to learn that in part 2 of this video. But we're going to have to learn some more things. Now, again, to get the terminology, what is this point here? Do you remember? You got it? What is it? It's the point over your head, because this is I'm looking at from the view of the horizon, and this left one is the half of the sky above you. This is the half of the sky below you. This point is a point over your head. It has a name. It's called the zenith. Zenith means point over your head. And this point directly below you, right below your feet, is called the nadir. So this is the zenith and the nadir. So you're learning some terminology. The zenith and the nadir. You know what the horizon is. It's a perfect horizon, unlike your physical horizon. And you learn the term ecliptic plane, which is the path of the sun as it travels through the sky. Let me show you an interesting thing about the ecliptic plane that I mentioned before. I'm going to go back to 1 hour, and I'll show you that it moves around. Right now it's going from here, which means it's not going directly east. This is north, so it's a little bit north of east. I'm going to go an hour forward. I'll click this right arrow. See what happened? It's changing. It's moved up. I'll go another hour, another hour, another hour, and now it's up here. So it kind of snakes around. Let me change this to, well, that's fine. I guess I could change it to 2 hours. No, that doesn't do that. 1 hour is fine. So I'll go forward, and you see this green thing keeps changing. So it's hard to know where the ecliptic plane is at any moment, because it moves all over the place. And here's the sun. It remains on the ecliptic plane. Right exactly on it. So I'll go forward another hour. Whoops. Right arrow. Right arrow. It's now much later in the day. It's 20:05 Universal Time, or Greenwich Mean Time. It's about 3 in the afternoon where she was born. Another hour, and look at the ecliptic plane now. It goes way down here, way up here. So the path of the sun, from the Earth's point of view, wobbles all over the place. Why? Well, it's just all this complexity that we're on the Earth, and the Earth is spinning around and so on, and it's tilted 23.5 degrees to the orbit of the Earth around the sun. And don't worry about it. It's just, the reasons for it are a little bit complex, but it's just a fact. The path of the sun wobbles around, and that's good to know. As we'll see in the next video for understanding this stuff, it's almost sunset, almost a half day later, and the sun is getting close to setting. Another hour forward, it'll probably set. Oh no, it doesn't set till it gets here. It's actually west, but it won't set till it gets way down here. So I'll go forward, and now the sun appears down here, which means it has finally set. Go back an hour, and it's here, and then 1 hour later it'll go below the horizon. So it doesn't set, a planet doesn't set until it crosses the horizon. And the ecliptic plane, the path of the planets, now is way down here. So part of the complexity of what's going on here is that in astrology we're using the ecliptic plane. Okay, I'm at a half hour. So let me summarize. We've now understand what an astrology chart shows us to some extent. It shows us an approximation of the sky, but it can't do it perfectly because it's a two-dimensional image trying to show the whole sky. And we learned that if a planet is 3 degrees above the ascendant, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's 3 degrees from the horizon. And in Madonna's chart it isn't. It's actually much closer to the horizon. And the moon is maybe further from the horizon than we thought it was. So the horizon and the ascendant are not the same. I'm going to finish by showing you this. The ascendant is this point here where the ecliptic plane crosses the horizon. This is the descendant. This is the ascendant. So here's the ascendant. Right here, the all-powerful ascendant, very important point in the astrology chart, is where the ecliptic plane hits the horizon. Where they intersect, that's the ascendant. At this time of day, about half a day after she was born, it's way up here. This is south. It's not due east. So what the astrology chart is really showing you is the ecliptic plane. The emphasis of the astrology chart is the ecliptic plane. Okay? And so you get some some differences if you try to think of the horizon on an astrology chart, because the horizon is not really in the astrology chart. So the ascendant is not the horizon as we think of it. It's where the ecliptic plane crosses the horizon. Okay. In the next part 2, in the next video, we're really going to get a better idea of why Mercury is 3 degrees above the ascendant, Moon is 3 degrees below the ascendant, but Mercury is closer to the horizon. I will explain that in the next video. We're getting there. Take some time. Okay, I'm going to stop here, and to be continued. Hope you enjoyed that. Take care. Namaste.